Hello, loves. Welcome to the latest episode of the Melanin Mayhem podcast, hosted by your favorite country girl, Renee Davis. And if you didn't know, Melanin Mayhem is the podcast that puts you up on all the tea about all the prolific melanated criminal masterminds that did some heinous shit, some audacious shit, and you've either never heard about them, didn't get the full story about what had happened or you haven't heard it the way that I tell it. And if this is your first time venturing into the world of mayhem, you might want to go buy a lottery ticket because, honey, your luck is hitting today. Don't worry, I don't bite, but my mouth is a little on the reckless side, so if you are tender-eared, consider yourself warned. And to my sweet loves, ooh, the New War Nation was cracking, Captain. I have missed my fam this week. It takes too long for Wednesday to come back around because shit just ain't right without y'all. You know, me and you, it's like food on a plate, baby. And we finna eat. I've been in the lab cooking up a real feast of fuckery for you today. I hope you're ready, because we about to get into some real audacious shit. I mean, we got another banger. And you know what? This week, I also learned something about myself. You see, for some reason, unconsciously, I was rating or ranking criminals, right? Like how we rank sin, like lying ain't as bad as a killing type of thing. But I was also blind spotting that criminals can be two types of criminals at the same time. Okay? So think about it like this. That one cousin that you put your good shit up when they come around because you know they a thief, but they just a thief. That's all we doing. We ranking them on the thievery level, right? But you don't equate their stealing criminality to say he's also a murderer too. But I learned this week, two things can be true at the same time, and discounting the criminal behavior and typecasting a person as only one type of crime doer can cost you dearly. This week's he was audacious as just a regular hood ass nigga. When he came on the scene, honey, his presence was felt because he dressed fly, honey. Every time you saw him, he was casket sharp. He was in them streets hard. Like pimping, robbing, selling dope. He was into all that shit. But he also looked like he could have been a member of Cool in the Gang or some shit, right? Like at any minute, this nigga just gonna break out on some get down on it. Come on now, get down on it. Yeah, okay, that's not the point. This nigga was slick, and he didn't mind throwing his homies under the bus to keep that shit in the middle of the road. Honey. But at the same time, he was also a raping ass, killing ass nigga whose story is a whole bunch of motherfuckery, literally and figuratively. And you know I'm gonna give it to you right, honey. What we have this week is a sicko with a predilection for a little old white ladies. Them motherfucking elder buns. So without further ado, bringing to the front of the congregation, this week's Melanin Mayhem maker is Mr. Carlton Gary, aka the Stocking Strangler. All right, New Orleans Nation. I hope you had a chance to grab your favorite beverage and a couple of snacks because it's time for this train to roll on out of here. Carlton Gary was born September 24th, 1950 in Columbus, Georgia. Now y'all can break out the violin, honey, because he's got a sob origin story. His daddy, Willie Gary, he was a construction worker and he was on some fuck them kids kind of time. He didn't want nothing to do with nobody's children, and so he dipped and was not a part of the story in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Now his mama, Carolyn David, she was, around. She had a couple other kids. She worked mostly as a domestic in the homes of the Elmer's Glue crew. But honey, when Carolyn wasn't working for Miss Millie Nim, would you like to be my maid? Old ass type of peoples. You know what I'm talking about? When she wasn't with them, Carolyn was booed up with somebody's son and was also team fuck them kids when it came to her own. Wherever her babies were, when she decided to dip, that's what the fuck they was gonna be. Now the main relatives that saw about Carolyn's children, was Auntie Lillian, which was Carlton's daddy's sister, or his great auntie Alma. Both of them lived in Columbus. They would be like the big mama type of person in the family, if you will. And they also worked as domestics for rich white women. They made sure that the kids was in school and shit, but they also spent a fair amount of time taking care of somebody else's family to the detriment of their own, I would say sometimes. And when I say they looked after Carlton them, I mean they did whenever Carlton's ass fell through that bit. What I couldn't figure out to save my life was how in the world is this child bouncing around between Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, and always back to Georgia to the aunties. I mean, a literal child, y'all. I'm talking 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. This little motherfucker was jumping on Greyhound buses and dipping. And what's crazier is that his relatives knew what was going on and they were giving him the money to play hobo from place to place. Like he got a plenty of relatives all over, like most black folks did at the time. And he would stay for a little while, be in school for a little while. Then the next thing you know, Carlton was homeless and eating out the trash. How was this little nigga able to stick and move like a full-grown hobo? See that right there? That let me know that something was just a little off in this here family. Cause these aunties and uncles and cousins, they all on the record saying that they didn't know how the little nigga maneuvered it. But he got around. Nobody thought to ask? Okay. Anywho. Carlton spent his youth bouncing around, like I said, from pillar to post, living off the goodness of whoever would allow him to lay his head. And Lil Carlton, like I said, he knew how to get around. His little ass would just pop up on somebody's doorstep, and when he felt the goodwill was gone, so was he. And so we talking every few months he was somewhere else. But around 1966, he went to Fort Myers, Florida, to live with his mama, Miss Carolyn, honey. He got down there thinking everything was going to be wonderful. He enrolled in Dunbar High School, and shit started looking like we gonna be on the right good foot now. Well, one day, Carlton goes to school, and when he come home, Carolyn punk ass done moved. Completely moved with her nigga. So Carlton asking around the neighborhood, y'all see my mama? And they was like, oh, she moved to Gainesville. Gainesville? God damn it, Carolyn. You ain't gonna never be candidate for Mother of the Year. Can you imagine going to school, kissing your mama goodbye, you get on the bus, go do your school shit, you come home, and home ain't there no more? Okay. Well, Carlton made his way to Gainesville because we know he know how to jump on a bus, right? And he found his mama living right smack dab in the middle of the hood. Honey, I'm talking about the hood of all hoods, baby. But he was with his mama, so he didn't care. But you know what happened in the hood? You get a hood-ass education from the School of Hard Knocks. And it wasn't long before this nigga name was known in them streets. And I mean known by everybody. The hood peoples and the cops. His little criminal ass did a couple of tours at the YDC, but it wasn't all bad because during all this time, he met his first old lady there. You see, he had made a friend to run with, right? Well, friend had a sister, and the next thing you know, he hooked up with friend's sister, a chick named Sheila Preston Dean. Now, they didn't make it official or nothing like that, but back in the day, if you shacked up with somebody long enough, y'all was common law married, and that's exactly what Sheila and Carlton did. But honey, while Sheila was head over heels for Carlton, that nigga was a mama's boy through and through, honey. Even though Carolyn's ass wasn't shit, Carlton just wanted his mama's love, like he would do anything that she asked him to do. And Carolyn was down for whatever was clever, including arson. She sure was. She was an old revengeful ass bitch, even when she was dead ass wrong. See, what had happened was, Carolyn's ass wrote a check at the local grocery store, knowing damn well she ain't had no money to cover that motherfucker, right? And this was the good old days when shit didn't instantly decline when you swiped your card. You know what I'm saying? She's sitting out here and I wrote this check out knowing it wasn't good. Okay. Well, Carolyn wrote the check for the money she didn't have. So when the check bounced, the store owner hit her up and was like, hey, come make this shit right. It wasn't for $25, y'all. But Carolyn was down with all the fuck shit and she wasn't gonna run this man his money. So what he do? Had that ass arrested. Young people, back in the day, you kited a check. Your ass went to jail for that shit. Well, she only spent one night in jail, but Carolyn wanted revenge big time. And she had her son and a couple of more people firebomb this man's store on March 13th, 1968. But Carlton is 18 now. You an adult now, man. What I really want to know is why the fuck it took 6 people to set one corner store on fire. Like, how do I know it was 6 people? Because 6 people, including Carolyn, Carlton, and his future wife and baby mama Sheila, was arrested and convicted for that firebombing, and all of them served some kind of time except Carlton. Oh no, Carlton skated right on out of town, headed to the northeast coastal cities to get away from the heat that was in Gainesville. But he didn't forget about his girl, because when Sheila served her 2 months, he sent for her to come north where he was. And they bebopped all around the Northeast. I'm talking about New England, Connecticut, and all them little cuts up in that little way. They just scamming and hitting licks everywhere they go. But then he fucked around and beat up a cop in Bridgeport, November 26, 1969, and it was time to get the hell out of Dodge again, honey. Next stop, upstate New York. Albany, to be specific. Now pause for a minute. I know we everywhere, but shit, we really everywhere, right? And we been everywhere for a long ass time. This is the 60s we talking about, right? And we have a melanated baddie up in these what I thought were all white enclaves, because I know if Carlton is there, he wasn't criming it up by himself. We was in that bit. I'm not saying that we are criminals, but you understand what I'm saying, right? So with all this going on, Carlton grew to be quite the criminal. Whatever the lick was, his ass was down for it, honey. I'm talking robbery, assault, pimping, or cutting a bitch water off. Carlton ass was mixed up in it. He was also the Dapper Dan, I told y'all. Yeah, Carlton liked to dress and be fly and shit. As my daddy would say, that nigga used to be cleaner than a broke dick dog. That's some country shit for your ass right there. And the women, ooh, how they flocked to that ass. But then a strange thing started happening. Whenever Carlton hit the scene, them, shall we say, seasoned, unseasoned women, or as we affectionately call them around here, the elder buns, they started coming up dead. And I'm talking about they was coming up dead the same motherfucking way, too. California wasn't the only place where niggas was strong arm and Gertrude them out they pussy and cutting their water off. So Carlton and Sheila, they're in Albany, New York, right? It's late 1969, early 1970. He on the run from beating up a police officer, right? But still in some shit. And here come this woman. 62-year-old Marion Brewer comes up unalive. She was beaten, raped, robbed, and strangled with a pillowcase on February 12, 1970, while she stayed at the Hampton Hotel in Albany, New York. Now, at the time, police didn't have a clue about who sent Marion to the upper room. They just knew she was gone. But then, 84-year-old white woman named Nellie Farmer, she was raped and strangled and beaten with one of her scarves when somebody robbed her hotel room on April 14th, 1970. Now, what's crazy, that particular night, Sheila said when Carlton got home, he was covered in scratches and he was acting real funny. So she started questioning his ass. Now, she thinking more along the lines that he been out with another bitch. Not that he been out doing some murderation type shit. But honey, Carlton was in his Ike Turner bag and proceeded to beat the brakes off Sheila for questioning him. Beat that woman with a clothes hanger. Ooh, Lord. I seen that shit on TV. It looked like it hurt. Sheila said she ain't asked no more questions. I wouldn't either, Sheila. Zip it, zip it, zip it. This nigga got a clothes hanger at her ass. That shit is not funny. I should not be laughing. Anyway, the police, they find some fingerprints on a trunk in Nellie's room. And Carlton, on July 15th, 1970, he attempts to assault another woman and he is arrested because she fought back and called for help. So he catches an assault charge for fucking with this white woman. But while he was in jail, they match his fingerprint to the one they found on Nellie shit, right? So when the cops go and holler at him about Nellie, he say, yeah, I was there, but I wasn't there to kill nobody. I just went there to rob the place. Y'all looking for my partner, nigga named John Lee Mitchell. He the one that raped and strangled Nellie's ass. Wait a minute. You wait just a goddamn minute. So you a snitch now? Big time. Real bad. Cause remember, we have established that it's snitching if you was part of the crime and you telling the business. This nigga snitching. But check this shit out. The cops believe Carlton, even though it's only Carlton's fingerprints that are found in Nellie's hotel room. They fuck around and make a deal with Carlton that he gonna testify against John Lee Mitchell, and they ain't gonna charge Carlton with murder. They just gonna charge him with burglary and give him a little 10-5. Man, of course this nigga jumped at that shit. Meanwhile, the cops go and snatch up John Lee Mitchell. John Lee Mitchell is like, what the fuck y'all want with me? I mean, he know he a criminal, but he know he ain't did nothing lately, right? It's some genuine what the fuck you want with me. They tell him that he is being charged with murder. John Lee Mitchell was like, man, I ain't killed nobody. Like, on God. The fuck y'all got on me? Cops was like, shit, we got a witness. And so John Lee is tripping because he legit don't know what the fuck the cops is talking about. But what he do know is that a public defender is not gonna cut it. This nigga got to go pay some money for a paid lawyer to come represent that ass because he was about to be railroaded. Believe that shit. Public defender? Nigga, you going to prison. So they arrest him, but while he is in jail, in the cafeteria one day, he see Carlton ass and realize that this nigga is setting him up. Baby, when I tell you it was on sight. Boy, he seen Carlton and immediately started throwing hands. Honey, he was not going for it. And you should beat that nigga for old and new. At the trial the following month in August, baby, they didn't move slow back in them days, honey. In the 70s, you do a crime within 30 days, we're going to handle this business. Honey, they took that shit to trial, and Carlton got up there, and he did testify against John. And the prosecution also had a letter that supposedly came from a cellmate of John Lee Mitchell that said that John had told him that he had killed Nellie. But oh, like I said, thank God for a paid attorney because they shot holes in all the state's evidence, including that goddamn letter. Cause come to find out, Carlton's punk ass the one that wrote the letter. They acquitted John Lee Mitchell, but Carlton got off too because remember he had a deal that said that he wouldn't be charged with Nellie's murder. Ain't that about a bitch? I told y'all this nigga was a conniving motherfucker. But he was locked up there at Tupac's old spot at the Clinton Correctional Facility. Only for robbing Nellie, though, not for killing Nellie. And guess what? He'll be right on out very shortly. And I'm talking 5 years later. On March 31st, 1975, Carlton was paroled. But instead of going back to his common-law wife, Sheila, he hooked up with a new boo, a nurse named Nancy, who became common-law wife number 2. Now, Nurse Nancy, she lived in Syracuse, New York. She had a job and business by herself. And right about the time that Carlton came on the scene, guess what happened to the elder buns in Syracuse, New York? They started coming up dead. Although these were some of the younger elder buns, but in the 70s, they would be considered elder buns. I think we still safe. Because the first one, she was 40 years old. That in 2025, that's young as fuck. But in 1975, I ain't gonna say the same thing. I don't know. I might be judgmental. Pay me no mind, because that's so not the point. 40-year-old Marion Fisher, she was an elementary PE school teacher, right? Loved the job, and by all accounts, she was good with the kids, right? She was also married. Well, one night, Marion and her husband, they go hit the bar. And at some point, they had a little argument or whatever. And Marion was on her fuck you and fuck this and I'm out type of time, right? And I'm saying, it must have been some real fuck shit that her old man did because she left the bar walking. And they lived like 6 miles from the bar. 6 miles? At night? Tipsy? Child, she was madder than a motherfucker. Can't nothing but pure deep anger make a bitch strike out walking. 6 miles? Oh, she was ready to kill a bitch. Well, husband finished getting his drink on at the bar, and then he took his drunk ass home. Well, they found Marion's ass on the side of the road, child, on June 27, 1975. And at that time, everybody thought it was her husband that did her. I mean, come on, just the part about her walking 6 miles home seemed far-fetched to me, right? So I can understand. But come to find out, husband was telling the truth, but nobody believed him. And even though he wasn't charged, he had to move away because, I mean, who the fuck want to live somewhere where everybody think you a killer? OJ probably, but not the point. You know, small towns are vicious for gossip and finger pointing, honey. I'd have moved too, honey. And y'all know it wouldn't be until 2007 before DNA definitively cleared that man. 32 motherfucking years later. Child. Better late than never, I guess. If I was a boy, I'd have took my ass back to Syracuse and told all the motherfuckers to kiss my ass. I told y'all I didn't kill her ass. But you know what? God's still working on me. Anyway, back to our mayhem maker. Now that following month, he's back at his hood nigga shenanigans and he gets his parole violated and is sent back to prison in Syracuse in July of 1975. 1 year later, they was like, okay, we're going to try this shit again. And they reinstate his parole July 17th, 1976. Carlton go back to doing what he do, robbing and pimping hoes. So, of course, he got caught up in some more shit not even 2 months later. This time, the nigga catch an assault charge. He said, fuck the judge, didn't even go to court. So, of course, that means a bench warrant comes out on September 3rd, 1976. But Carlton, he ain't worried about that shit. That nigga is slipping and sliding on their ass. Still running shit in them streets. Still looking fly as a motherfucker. And all the ladies of the Saltine Nation are still coming up fucked up. Well, January 2nd, 1977, a chick named Jean Frost get jumped on, right? And a nigga is trying to take her cookies. Now, Jean is 55, but she still got some fight in her, honey, and she wasn't giving up that box, and she was able to scream and fight this nigga off of her, and the nigga runs off. But he hit the place up before he attacked her, so some of her shit was missing, right? Cops come in, they get a description from Jean, who did what he looked like, all that shit, and 2 days later, they run up in Carlton's spot. Why they find the watch that belonged to Jean in this nigga pocket? Nigga, that's your ass, see? But they don't get him on attempted rape. They get him for possession of stolen property. Ain't that out of bitch? Fuck that watch. What about my motherfucking cat? Anyway, so for having stolen property, he catches a 4-year bid later that same month, and they sent him to the Onondaga Correctional Facility in upstate New York. Now, Carlton, you gon' see, was not the one to be sitting in prison. Oh no, honey, this nigga plots, and then he executes the plan. I told y'all this nigga was slipperier than a greased pig on Sunday. Honey, baby, August 22nd, 1977. That nigga broke out of prison and was on the midnight train to Georgia, honey. I told you, everything he did, he always circles back to Georgia. You're gonna see this pattern, right? Now, Carlton is a whole ass fugitive. You would think that he would lay low and shit. But oh no, not our boy Carlton. I told you the nigga was audacious. He outside like he got a pardon from the governor. Once that nigga feet touched down, he fell right back into his old swag, getting fresh and getting to that motherfucking bag. And just like in New York, Elder Buns started coming up unalived in Columbus, Georgia, right around the same time that Carlton was back on the block. In between robberies, that is. Now, these killations, they were happening in the rich white area of Columbus, in the Winton neighborhood. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That old money with hired domestics from the hood, rich type of place. Oh, yeah. All the victims were neighbors. All of them lived within 1 mile of each other. Like, I'm talking 1 month after his escape on September 16th, 1977, 60-year-old Fern Jackson was raped, beaten, robbed, and strangled with a pair of stockings at her home in Columbus. And this nigga stole her car. 9 days later, September 23rd, 1971, 71-year-old Jean Demonstein, she was beaten, raped, robbed, and strangled with some stockings in her house. And her car was boosted too. So the Columbus police, they see a pattern. Oh, wait a minute. It's a motherfucker out here strangling these old white women with pantyhose. Oh, this nigga catch a nickname. He now becomes the Stocking Strangler. Baby, once this nigga got his nickname, it set off a panic in the Casserole Caucus community. Baby, them motherfuckers was shook. The Elder Buns was on the menu, and somebody was hungry. The Golden Girls was getting got in their own shit. Everybody scared to know who was gonna be next, because Fern and Jean was like back to back, so the paranoia was building to an all-time high. But then 2 weeks go by, nothing happened. 3 weeks go by, nothing happens. Well, then at that point, people are like, okay, maybe they've stopped, and they loosen their grip a little bit, and baby, the shit happened again. The third victim in the Stocking Stranglings was 89-year-old Florence Schleibel. Now, Flo, she was a textbook little old white woman. That bitch was on a walker and damn near blind. And on October 21st, 1977, that motherfucking Carlton, went up in her house, beat her, raped her, strangled her, and robbed her house. Now, Carlton, what in the whole fuck turns you on about a woman on a walker with cataracts? Houseway? I can't. By the time we get to victim number 4, all of the sour creamians have taken the proper precautions to secure Mimo and them. I'm talking deadbolts on the door, nailing the windows shut, neighborhood watch, people making nightly calls to everybody to make sure everything was good. Like everything that you can do when there is a raping raper that rapes and a murdering murderer that murders on the loose hunting for some senior punani. You can't stop a motherfucker on a mission to drill, kill, and destroy. Ask post 69-year-old Martha Thurman. Well, I guess you can't ask her because, honey, she woke up dead on October 25th, 1977, with a pair of stockings laying by her head. God damn it, Martha. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Tell Martha not to moan. I'm sorry. Y'all know sometimes it just pop in my head and I just have to go with it for a minute. Pay me no mind. Pay me no mind. Now, victim number 5 was 74-year-old Kathleen Woodruff. She got on December 28th, 1977. Let me tell you what happened with her. Her maid came in and found her dead in her bed. But check this shit out. The cops want to say that this old dead white woman that got frizzled by having the life strangled out of her was not like the other killations of old white women who got strangled in their homes. Well, who the fuck they think it was, Nay? Well, they said that because Kathleen was strangled with a scarf and it didn't appear like she had been beaten and they couldn't tell if she was raped. But in the same breath, they say it looked like Miss Kathleen had some bruises on her face and it looked like she had been hit in the mouth. But she don't fit the profile of the Stocking Strangler? Maybe Kathleen didn't wear no motherfucking pantyhose. She was 74 years old. When I'm 74, you can for damn sure bet your ass I ain't gonna have no motherfucking pantyhose in my house. Shit me, I just do got a pair now. That's not the point. If it walk like a duck, it talk like a duck, it smell like a duck. That's a motherfucking duck. Y'all finna be talking about his turkey. Kathleen was also a victim, honey. But they was like, nope, we don't see no pattern here. That nigga wasn't done though, because Ruth Schwab, she was attacked in her home almost 2 months later on February 12th, 1978. But old Ruth, she had an alarm and some kind of way she was able to hit that bitch and her attacker ran off. Now she was stunned, but she was alive and unraped. But Carlton, he was not going to be denied some of that senior cat that he loved so much. So after he ran out of Ruth's house, he just went right on up the block. The very next morning, Ruth's neighbor, 78-year-old Mildred Borum, was found beaten, raped, robbed, and strangled February 13th, 1978. Good God. That's a lot. I told y'all, just fucking audacious. Now, after a full year of fucking up Philomena Nim, Carlton is ready to get back to his other criminalistic endeavors that he loves so much. Strong arming a motherfucker, right? And class is in session, baby, and Carlton is giving a masterclass in robbing 101. Like, this nigga go on a spree of lay it down, you hoes lay it down, lay it down, you hoes lay it down. Y'all know I love Southern hip hop. If you don't know what that is, ask your mama. It's almost like raping and killing elder buns kind of supercharged this nigga or something. I don't know what, but the shit might as well be his greatest hits album of mayhem, because from April 1978 to February 1979, this nigga was booked and busy and did not get caught because he was zigzagging on that ass from Columbus, Georgia up to South Carolina. I normally don't even go into their extracurricular crimes like this, but I feel the need to break it down to y'all to let y'all understand how much robbing this nigga was doing. This nigga robbed Burger King, April 22nd, 1978 in Columbus. The Hungry Hummer Restaurant, May 14th, 1978 in Columbus. The Western Sizzler, September 4th, 1978 in Columbus. The Talk of the Town, which was a little bar type of situation, September 22nd, 1978 in Greenville, South Carolina. Ryan Steakhouse, October 8th, 1978 in Greenville. Western Sizzler, October 19th, 1978 in Greenville. McDonald's, October 29th, 1978 in Columbus. Po folks. Y'all remember po folks? Ooh, honey, if it was in the hood, that was some good eating, honey. Ooh, anyway, he went up in there and robbed the po folks on November 5th, 1978 in Greenville, South Carolina. Then he went to Jack's Steakhouse December 7th, 1978 in Greenville, South Carolina. Now he took a pause or something for the holidays and he didn't jump back out on their ass until February 15th, 1979 when he went back to another po folks restaurant in Gaffney, South Carolina. Like, god damn, Carlton, this nigga was a menace in his regular life. When you add them extracurriculars, like, oh my god, nigga, you was a super criminal. After almost a year of being a jack boy, he want to go back to his other love, the love of old lady Pooh Nanny. Oh yeah, I guess he can't do two things at once. He either got to rob or he got to rape. So he hadn't been raping nobody while he was doing all this robbing. Now he through robbing, it's time to go back raping, right? But here's the thing, after Ruth's water got turned off, the coroner had did his job and he said that he found pubic hairs at Ruth's house and they were negroid. I wish I could see me doing the air quotes right because negroid, that was the PC way of saying a black person in the 70s, right? Well, honey, that little factoid set Columbus on fire. Honey, if you was a black man, you better not get caught nowhere near a white neighborhood. Then here come the motherfucking KKK. The fucking KKK. This is the 70s. They were still, dipping and doing it a whole lot more than they do now out in public. Well, the KKK, they came marching in and they was talking about that they was going to patrol the blocks for the Saltine Nation because they wasn't finna keep having some black man running up in the old white women's house taking their cookies. Okay, KKK. It's okay, KKK. But y'all, then the funniest shit of all happened. There was a letter mailed to the cops from somebody calling themselves the chairman of the Forces of Evil. The Forces of Evil was supposed to be a group of 7 flower rangers that were supposedly holding a black woman hostage, and they said if the police couldn't figure out who the nigger was with the hard ER, the nigger, who the nigger was that was killing all the elder buns, then the Force MDs was gonna go on a killing spree of random black women to even the score. But y'all, it sounded like some good shit, right? But it was all juicy smoothie. I'm talking about from top to bottom, juicy smoothie. Baby, because the Forces of Evil, it was a whole ass nigga named William Henry Hance. Honey, William was doing his own shenanigans and he was trying to throw the cops off of his scent when he was out here making up this group of white vigilantes. Baby, trust and believe there will be a future episode on William's punk ass because he was doing the most. Now, the last elder bun to become acquainted with the dick of death was 61-year-old Janet Coffer. Last time anybody saw her was at choir practice at the church on Wednesday, April 19th, 1978. The next day, April 20th, 1978, Janet was singing with Jesus. Honey, this motherfucker had done broke in, did what he do, robbed her, 2 guns, a rifle, $100, and 3 pairs of police uniform pants and 4 police shirts. Now, I don't know why what he took tickled me. Yes, I do. I know why. Because the first thing I thought was, this nigga is already planning his next robbery and he gonna be dressed like the Popo. A mess. A absolute mess. Because that's what it was. That's what it was. Honey, let me tell you something. The police, they have had enough. And the racial tensions are about to tear Columbus, Georgia apart. The police need a miracle to break this case open sooner rather than later. But as far as Carlton goes, he's about to face the music a little bit. You see, while he was out in his robbing phase, some fingerprints and an eyewitness gets that ass tossed in the pen. You see, that last robbery of the Po Folks restaurant in Gaffney, South Carolina, for that one single crime of robbery. They sentenced him in South Carolina to 21 years, but this is also around the time that they find out Carlton's ass is a fugitive from New York. Because remember, this nigga is a fugitive. And so they tell him, you know what? You're going to also finish that New York time while you down here in South Carolina. And they sent his ass off to prison February 26, 1979. I told y'all how Carlton feel about prison. He don't like that shit. And it took him a while, but he did indeed figure out a way to get the hell out of Dodge. And baby, it was just in the nick of time. Check this shit out. March 11th, 1984, a Columbus, Georgia police officer gets shot. Police recover the gun. They trace the gun back to a robbery in South Carolina back in 1978 of a Po Folks restaurant. When they traced the gun, it came back as being owned by Carlton's uncle. The police, they go and talk to Unc. He tell them that he got the gun from his nephew. So the police are like, okay, who is your nephew? And he says, my nephew's name is Carlton Gary. Well, the gun was stolen out of a car in Columbus during the Stocking Stranglings. Same neighborhood and everything. So they're thinking if Gary stole the gun, maybe he did the fucking and the killing too. So now they start blowing the dust off a bunch of old strong arm robberies that never got solved. And they put Carlton's picture in a photo lineup and motherfuckers start picking his face out as the one that robbed their ass. Oh, so that's how they uncovered his greatest hits. So, okay, we got a robbing robber that robs. And we also think he's a raping raper that rapes and a murdering murderer that murders. They painting this picture, and Carlton is looking like the man. Time to go have a talk with that ass. Now, I'm going to tell you, Carlton must have felt it in the air or something because he is doing his time in South Carolina, but he is thinking up a master plan this entire time. What he needs is freedom to move around the prison, and plan was activated. He started putting on his best behavior, and his good efforts got him a reward of a little bit more privilege. That nigga was given the position of the prison barber and trustee. Mission accomplished. What was his mission, Nay? That nigga needed them to lay up off him a little bit because he hadn't worked out his master plan, but he needed to be able to stick and move like he wanted to. And did, baby, because Carlton dipped on their ass, honey. Deuces, bitches. I'm out. This nigga done broke out and now he is on the run on March 15th, 1984. Man, this a scene straight out of Shawshank. I'm talking about they had everybody looking for his ass. The bloodhounds and everything. Only this nigga didn't escape out of a sewage pipe like Andy Dufresne did. This nigga sawed a hole in the wall and snuck out. And just like Auntie Gladys said, that nigga was on the midnight train back to Georgia. You know, Columbus is his home. It's like home base for him. Now, it's him and his celly that snuck out. They caught the celly. They didn't catch Carlton, which is crazy because this nigga wasn't trying to lay low at all. I told y'all how this nigga get down. Carlton was outside, you hear me? Honey, he went straight back to Columbus, Georgia and started playing a hellacious game of keep away. He was staying with his family, he was staying with friends, and of course, he was never short of a gang of females who would let him lay up, right? This nigga back to selling drugs, he back to robbing because he got to stack his paper up again, right? But he was also outside shopping because, you know, Carlton got to stay fly, honey. But what I don't understand was how the fuck were the police always one step behind a nigga that's outside, like not hiding. And I'm talking, y'all, they were actively looking for his ass. Man, they was knocking and kicking in doors left, right, and sideways, honey. But Carlton always just, you gotta be quicker than that. You know what I'm saying? He kept them hoes chasing after him through Columbus, Gainesville, Florida, and Albany, Georgia. Stayed in a rental car that one of his peoples would put in their name. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't nobody not trying to help Carlton. Wasn't nobody expecting Carlton to be the type of criminal that he was. But he was, right? And again, this motherfucker is outside. I'm talking, this nigga is at concerts and shit. Front row, VIP and everything. Like you ain't a whole ass fugitive. Honey, if I don't give two fucks was a person, it would be Carlton Gary. Now you know, the Salt Gang members of the Alphabet Boys, they was not pleased that this nigga was playing in their face. So they stepped it up. They had motherfuckers telling everybody that had any type of connection to Carlton, we gonna find your ass, nigga. But the funny thing is, they had his ass at least twice. But God bless 80s pre-technology times because Carlton, he would get snatched up, he would get ass a fake name, and it was always some bondable type of shit, right? So he'd make bail and dip on their ass before they realized who they had, right? And ooh, the motherfuckers was 38 hot every time they realized that he had slipped through their fingers, right? They heard that he had some rooms over at the Holiday Inn in Columbus. So they bust up in that motherfucker. No Carlton. But they did find a half a pound of cocaine, some money, and some women. And it went on like that for like 50 something odd days before they finally got lucky. You see, they had tapped a whole lot of phones, and on one of the phone taps, they heard one of his girls talking about Carlton was in Albany, Georgia, waiting on a cocaine delivery at another Holiday Inn. So the Columbus police, they sent the Albany, Georgia police to go sit on the hotel. Come to find out, Carlton is in that motherfucker. What Carlton would do was rent a gang of rooms, so you gotta figure out which one he in, right? But then they saw Robin, one of his bottom bitches, and they knew wherever Robin went, that's where the fuck Carlton was. And so they watched her go in the room, right? Got him. So they in the room. Carlton tell Robin to go get some ice. She walk out the door. The police snatch her ass up before she can alert Carlton say anything, right? Next thing he know, they kicking in the door, and Carlton is laid out on the bed, chilling like a villain. Honey, no longer. You are back in custody, baby. May 3rd, 1984, right? Columbus was riding on two wheels to get to Albany, baby, to get that motherfucker and bring him back to come answer to these elder bonds. Oh, no. But this is I don't know, it's all been crazy, but this is, I guess, super, super crazy. On the ride back from Albany to Columbus, y'all, tell me why this nigga Carlton got verbal diarrhea. According to the investigators, he just telling them everything, all the murders. And when they got to Columbus, he had them to drive around, and he pointed out the houses that he did his raping and robbing and strangling. Just telling the business. Sir, I am not advising anybody to be a criminal or how to be a criminal, but if you are going to be a criminal, this is not how you be a criminal, sir. What the fuck kind of G is you? Use an old Gabby mouth G. Old Chatty Carlton ass nigga. Honey, because when I say everything, what he did, how he did it, and then he showed them houses too. Nigga, what? Honey, they didn't waste no time putting charges on that ass. Within 16 hours of arriving back in Columbus, they had convened a grand jury and indicted his ass on 3 counts of murder on May 5th, 1984. 1984. Now, of course, the prosecution let it be known that they was going for the death penalty, and now it was time to get to work building their damn case, right? Well, Gary, he got him an attorney from Atlanta. He was trying to see if maybe a city lawyer could help him escape old Sparky. No, we gonna see. They did what they do, the usual legal maneuverings or whatever. They tried to send Carlton off to be tested to see if he was mentally competent. Carlton gave their ass the middle finger on that shit. That nigga had an IQ of like 170. Off the charts, like he had a super, super high IQ. Fuck you and your competency test. How dare you? Well, in July of 1986, they made a ruling that because the case in Columbus was just so spectacular, it was no way that Carlton was going to be able to get a fair jury in Columbus. So they decided to do the jury selection part of the court case. They're going to get the jurors from Griffin, Georgia, but the case would still be tried in Columbus, Georgia. The jury was just going to be sequestered and make that ride every day for the duration of the trial. Well, Carlton goes to trial August 11th, 1986. The prosecution, honey, they had a strong case. I'm talking fingerprints and witnesses and prior bad acts and Carlton's history of throwing rocks and hiding his hand and saying somebody else did it, as well as him being a 2-time fugitive and a stick-up kid. Now, Carlton's lawyer, this man's name was Bud Simon. He tried, but they was fucking Bud every way and every turn. He was a public defender now, and he was trying to ask for some cheddar to do the case justice, right? And the court was like, you better go get you some experts off Timu, honey, because we ain't got no money for you. And the defense put on was that, hey, Carlton does not deny that he was there, but he was only there for the robbing part of the crime. It was his homie that did all the raping and killing. Man, that nigga love to throw an imaginary motherfucker under the bus, don't he? Honey, the jury was not going for it though, huh? No. On August 26, 1986, after deliberating for a couple of hours, the jury found that ass guilty on all counts. Now this nigga Carlton, he up in court with some dark shades on. I told you, he looked like he should have been in Kool in the Gang. I'm gonna put some pictures up so you can see what I'm talking about. He don't say nothing. He just sit down hard And then he turn around and he get his sister the thumbs down. Yeah, nigga, it's a bad day for you, 'cause they finna let you cook, honey. And then they made it official the very next day on August 27th. Nigga, you got the whole ass death penalty. We coming for you. But y'all know when any death penalty case, it's a shitload of appeals, and Carlton's wasn't no different. But of all of the appeals that they filed, I found one to be quite interesting, right? February 14th, 2007, Carlton had an appeal that was heard by 11th Circuit Judge Clay Land in Columbus, right? And the particular appeal spoke about a bite marks cast that was made from one of the victims, Janet Cofer. Now, mind you, what I'm talking about here, Janet had a bite on her body. They made a cast out of it of plaster, but the prosecution didn't use it at the trial. Now, y'all, the dental cast, it looked like a nigga with the yuck mouth had done bit Janet. There was a gap between the two front teeth, and the rest of the mugs looked like they were twisting around having conversations with each other, right? But here's the thing. Carlton didn't have a fucked up grill. So the prosecution's answer to that was that Carlton had dental work done while he was in prison, and that's why the cast didn't match his present day mouth. Well, the defense put up a witness that used to be tight with Carlton back in the day, in the 70s, and one of them was an owner of a clothing store where Carlton used to model. And this man straight up told the judge that Carlton wouldn't have been able to be a model if he had a mouth full of what the fucks. Then they had a dentist get up on the stand and testify that even if Carlton had had some dental work on his top grill, his bottom grill still didn't match. So basically, if the bite don't fit, you must acquit type of shit and give this man a new trial because the prosecution was up to some trickery. Now, throughout all of this, the prosecution was quiet as a church mouse. They was like, we said what we said when we said it, and ain't shit changed. And guess what? 3 motherfucking months later, May 2007, Judge Clayland was like, fuck all that. You still gonna cook. I refuse to overturn any of this shit, even though I ain't seen ever in my life a motherfucker get braces in prison and straighten out their grill. Carlton, even though your shit don't match, it don't mean shit to me. He was like, okay, maybe if the jury had heard about this shit at trial, it's possible that they may have come back with a different verdict, but I don't think it's probable. So the execution is back on, bitches. So Carlton's defense team, they weren't giving up yet. They had another appeal. They went a little higher, and then they went to the court one level below the Supreme Court to give it one more try. They brought up the bite mark. They brought up some random footprints that were around that didn't match Carlton, but didn't nobody look into them. Then they wanted to know, was that really Carlton's fingerprints that they found on the scene? They was challenging eyewitness testimony. And then they also said that the confession that they got from Carlton after he took them on that tour of all his shit that he had done, they didn't record it, and Carlton didn't sign it. So, you got to give us a new trial. Well, this all happened September 2007. The court took 18 months to come back and be like, so what? Appeal denied. Yeah, you got some good arguments, but we gonna still rock with the lower courts on this shit, honey. And they finally got around to killing this nigga on March 15th, 2018. But by then, old Sparky had been put in the attic, and they were giving niggas a jab instead. Carlton was given his injection and was a member of the Hells Angels mass choir by 10:33 p.m., honey. And that, y'all, was the story of Carlton Gary, a.k.a. the Stocking Strangler. I told y'all it was going to be crazy, and so many things just were revealed to me during the research of this podcast because, I always say you can't help who you know. I got that from Frankie, right? And it's also true because I know all kinds of people, from accountants to street pharmaceutical salespeople, right? People that have never gotten into trouble and people that can't stay out of trouble. And I think in that aspect, we all know somebody, some way that's into some criminalistic shit. Now, I ain't saying that these are the homies that we kicking it with, right? Every day, all day. But, if these folks see me in the street, we gonna speak and chop it up if we make eye contact. You know what I'm saying? But I'm realizing all criminals are not created equal, and I won't pretend to know all the shit that my criminalistic associates are into. But regular people tend to believe that whatever the criminal shit is, ain't nobody really getting hurt for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe their victims take a financial hit, from the robbing crew or the scamming crew. Or maybe there are some morally questionable behavior sometimes because they into some drug shit, or maybe even some sexcapade type of work. Maybe they're gangsters or gang related. So, perhaps there's some wet work that they had to put in, but we're sure it's only for a rival or for somebody that really deserved it, right? But humans always think the best of other humans, but that's not always the case because this nigga today, he was a criminal's criminal, right? He was into all kind of shit, but everybody loved him. Especially the women. I mean, kind of like last week's Mayhem Maker Pretty Ricky. This nigga was easy on the eyes, too. I mean, his own mama is quoted as saying that she believed her son is the finest young man God ever put breath in. Okay, weird. Creepy much, Carolyn? I don't expect nothing else from you. But Carolyn wasn't the only one that thought that this nigga had it going on. But nobody knew about the dark, barbaric side to the shit hit the papers, right? And I wonder, does looks play a role in how we view criminal? I mean, it's got to. I do think that pretty privilege is a real thing. Carlton, like Pretty Ricky, stayed in some shit, but was always able to escape. You know what I'm saying? The people in their lives helped them escape, helped them elude, helped them beat up on the system, right? Even after all the evidence had come out and Carlton was on his way to old Sparky, his women were still soft on that ass. Let me tell you something. After the verdict was read and everybody knew what he had done and all of the evidence had been presented, here come that first common law wife, Sheila. She is quoted as saying when somebody asked her how she would act if Carlton walked into the room right now, she said, quote, "He's a handsome man, a good-looking man, a gorgeous man. He had this class and style about him. He's not an ordinary robber. I don't care what they say. If he walked in that door right now, I'd run into his arms and sexually molest him." End quote. Like, that's a whole ass quote. Ma'am, you is talking to a reporter about a man that has been convicted of killing a bunch of bitches. This nigga has monkey stomped on your ass on several occasions, left you and your children high and dry, and you want to molest his ass? Bitch, please, go get you some therapy immediately. Ugh. But there is something to be said about a handsome man or a pretty woman when they get in trouble. I mean, I ain't trying to toot my own horn, I ain't hard on the eyes, and I have gotten out of many a ticket by batting my eyes and, putting this old southern drawl on them, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes they let me go with a warning. But I don't know. For pretty people, is there chance after chance to get it right? But an ugly motherfucker that get the book thrown at him? I'm just saying. I think we should talk about this on social media this week, right? All I want to say is beware of your jack of all crimes type of criminal, because who knows what type of shit they might really be up to. I'm just saying. Okay, before we get out of here, y'all know I need y'all to follow through on my social media pages. It's Melanin Mayhem Podcast or Melanin Mayhem PC. Just start typing. You're going to see me. My DMs are open and jumping, honey. And also, do you guys know that next week we will be celebrating 1 year of Melanin Mayhem? Bum, 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 bum. Ew, that is so amazing. And I never could have dreamed how far that y'all would take the country girl in just 365 days. Next week, to kick off our anniversary, I've got goodies for you. I've got presents. And one thing that I will let you know about is that I'm going to be hanging out with the guys on the Panther Politics podcast. So I'll be posting on social media more info about that. I want to make sure that you guys know how to get at me to listen to your girl. This is not a true crime podcast, Panther Politics. I'm just coming on to shoot the shit with the guys over there, bringing a little estrogen to the table, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And they do videos, so you will have a chance to see the country girl up close and personal. I'm attending a few more live shows in the upcoming months. So my girl Kay has a live show at Margaritaville in Atlanta in June. Kay hosts the Infamous Ones podcast. So if you are hanging in the Atlanta area in June, come check my girl out. You can find ticket information on Eventbrite, and there is a link in the private discussion group page. I'll have more info on more live shows from some more dope ass Black true crime podcasters for you as we continue to move and grew through 2025. This week's Noir Nation shout out goes to True Crime Lover who left me a review on Apple. True Crime Lover said, "Hey Renee, you are indeed my favorite country girl. Your storytelling is unmatched and you cut so good. I love it. Keep up the great work and bringing us these great stories of these no good, audacious mayhem makers." Thank you, True Crime Lover. Your words make the country girl feel so good, and I appreciate you for listening and taking the time to leave a review. So, all right, y'all. All good things must come to an end. And I hate to leave, but I gotta go. It's editing time. I love y'all for listening. And if you know me, you know I want you to stay safe. I want you to stay vigilant, honey, because if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. It's one love, Noir Nation, and the country girl is out of here. Wow.